I paid attention to you going back to the first Trump term, because you were saying expressly, vividly, precisely, not only about the narcissism and the sociopathy, but the extent to which this was is a danger for the country. And there is this tendency, and I've studied it historically, and I'm working on a book that sort of frankly takes you all the way back to the Civil War and the Revolutionary War to look at periods where there were traitorous among us in the country. Leaders come into power and they just decide to kind of gloss over and move on. And I think it's something that's in the psyche of Americans, always kind of wanting to move forward. I worry about, are we risking another one of these cases where Americas will just sort of move forward, kind of gloss over what's happened? And if so, does it say that the country's leaders are still willing, after everything we've suffered through here, to tolerate extreme corruption and criminality?
Yeah, and that's a scary thought. I mean, to me, our ability to recover from this, it requires sort of a moral rebirth of our political life, where we basically say, we just don't tolerate any of this. We don't tolerate the corruption. We don't tolerate the lying. And instead, we live in a world where people say, well, everybody lies. Everybody's going to do this. And look, no one's perfect, right? There are politicians will tell tall tales and make promises they can't keep for the rest of existence. But we're talking about multiple orders of magnitude, the difference between, the petty stuff that you normally see in everyday politics that we have seen for 250 years, and we will continue to see, and this level of depravity. And it's a false equivalence to say that, oh, everybody does it in this circumstance. We have lost the scale. We have lost the ability to perceive that we are off the scale, so far off the scale that this country is unrecognizable to anybody who is really paying attention to it 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And it's especially true with trying to talk to younger people about it who have no recollection of an era where government had nowhere near this level of corruption. And whenever it did pop up, usually in states or municipalities somewhere, it ultimately fell apart and people ended up going to federal prison. And now we just have, we have to make this moral recovery if we're ever to make a political recovery. And one of the things one of the reasons why I'm running for Congress is that Congress is the essential tool for this. You're the historian. You can tell me I'm wrong, but the framers believe, not only that Congress was obviously a legislature, but they adopted the view of Parliament, that Parliament was a grand inquest of the people against the king's officers, to hold them accountable to the public, to hold them accountable to their oaths of office. And that is every bit as important a function of Congress. And today, it's much more important function of Congress, with the level of depravity and the level of corruption that even the framers probably could not have foreseen. Well, this is in order to have a republic, we need to have essentially the grand inquest that would be a tremendous civics lesson for the country, because it's too late to take everybody back to school and teach them civics. The way we're going to have to teach them civics is to say, look at this and look at what the standard is supposed to be. I mean, that requires impeachment and removal and a trial.
I do say it a lot, that you can go back to 1797 and George Washington's farewell address, when he warned about a despot, feeding on growing factionalism within the country, and a despot who ultimately would, in his words, sort of exploit, the ruins of public liberty. And he's very detailed in that, with the help of Alexander Hamilton and James Madison in concocting the speech. But so the worry has been there all along.
And that's why they created the Electoral College, ironically, right? Because they thought that somehow the Electoral College would be this group of wise people who would meet in each state, and no one like a Donald Trump could come to power nationally. I mean, that's literally what they put in the Federalist Papers.
But we don't have to